Dear Leo, radiant fire of the zodiac, let me ask you something bold. Have you felt it? A shift in the air around you, the sense that something or someone is approaching, not to rescue you, but to stir something ancient and powerful inside you? If you're here, watching this, I need you to understand one thing right away. This is not random. You didn't click on this video by mistake. This message is not a coincidence. It's a cosmic appointment. You are being called. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, a sacred space where your soul meets its reflection and your intuition finds its voice. Today's message carries weight. Because Leo, someone is coming. A presence. A tall stranger. Maybe a real person. Maybe a symbol. Maybe a version of you that you've buried so deeply, you forgot they ever existed. This tall figure doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand announcements. He arrives quietly, but unmistakably. And he doesn't come to fix you. He comes to show you that you were never broken. His presence doesn't complete you, it confronts you. It reflects back the parts of you that you've ignored, compromised, or silenced for the sake of peace, love, or survival. Leo, I know you. I know your courage, your loyalty, your heart that beats louder than most. But I also know the weight you've carried in silence, the dimming of your own light just to make others comfortable. And I know you're tired. You've had enough of being the strong one without being seen. That's why this message found you. That's why you're here. You're standing on the edge of a transformation. And yes, this tall man may come in the form of a persona mentor, a partner, a catalyst. But it's just as likely that he is an echo of your higher self, stepping through the doorway of your life, asking you to remember who you were before the world taught you to shrink. Don't ignore the signs. The dreams, the synchronicities, the inner unrest theory, all invitations. Something sacred is stirring. Your soul knows it. And the moment this energy enters your life, it will challenge everything that no longer aligns. It won't be comfortable. But it will be necessary. And you, Leo, are not here to play small. You're not here to survive your story. You're here to rewrite it with fire, with pride, and with truth. So before we go any further, let me take a moment to offer my deepest thanks for your presence. Every like, every comment, every subscription is not just support, it's a sign that this message reached who it was meant to. You are part of this eternal mindfulness family, and your energy is why this space exists. Now I ask you, from one seeker to another, have you felt it? That whisper in your chest, that subtle pull that brought you here today? If you have, take a moment and comment below. I'm ready to meet what's been waiting for me. Let that be your declaration to the universe. Because trust me, Leo, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this video. What the cosmos is about to reveal isn't just a prediction, it's a reckoning. And the part of you that's been asleep is about to rise. With your heart blazing as it does, Leo, you were born to shine. You're no stranger to center stage, and you've carried the weight of leadership, presence, and emotional generosity for longer than most can imagine. But somewhere along that path of showing up for everyone else, something quiet inside you began to dim. Not because your light was fading, but because the world kept asking you to turn it down. You've tried to soften your edges, to make room for others, to hold back your fire so no one would get burned. And yet, in doing so, you started moving further and further from yourself. There's a particular kind of forgetting that happens when we prioritize peace over truth, when we smile while our spirit clenches, when we say yes just to avoid the weight of disappointment. That forgetting doesn't erase who you are, but it does lull parts of you to sleep. And the part of you that has been asleep the longest is the one that knows how to draw the line, how to say no, how to stand tall without needing anyone's applause. That part, your inner fire, your sacred will, is now beginning to stir. You may feel it as restlessness. You may hear it as a whisper that questions every should you've been handed. Or perhaps it comes to you in dreams, where you stand as you truly are, unapologetic, radiant, whole. This is not about rebellion. It's not about ego or pride. It's about remembering. It's about returning to the truth that your worth is not conditional on how much space you take or how softly you speak. In this light, the tall man who is coming is not merely someone external. He may arrive in the form of a stranger, yes, someone who sees you in a way others haven't, someone whose presence alone awakens something primal in you. But more often than not, this tall man is a reflection of your own divine authority, off the self you once placed aside to keep peace, to be liked, to belong. He stands now before the threshold of your life, asking, will you let me in? Or more truly, will you let yourself return? There is a silent kind of power in choosing to wake up. Just as the sun rises without asking permission, your light is not here to be managed, it's here to illuminate. And when that inner flame rises, it does not scream. It does not demand. It simply stands. The emperor within you does not chase. He does not perform. He governs from clarity, from steadiness, from unwavering self-respect. This phase of your life asks you to pick up the scepter you left behind in order to be accepted. But here's the paradox: the more you shrink to fit the expectations of others, the less visible you become even to yourself. What's rising in you now is not rebellion. It's restoration. It's not loud. It's not rushed. It's simply undeniable. The number 8 holds meaning here. Right speaks to regeneration, inner strength, cycles that repeat until we break free from them. It reminds you that what you are stepping into is not new, but remembered. It's not gifted to you, it's reclaimed. Golden yellow, the color of dignity, return, and sovereignty, is your ally in this process. Surround yourself with it. Wear it. Let it remind you, not of what you need to become, but of what you already are. There's a saying, when the mind returns to silence, the truth stands up on its own. And perhaps that is your work now, to let the noise fall away, so the truth of who you are can rise once more. The tall man at the door may not be a person at all. He may simply be the part of you that no longer asks to be let in but chooses to come home. After the awakening comes the preparation, and Leo, this is where your true power begins to take shape. As the presence of the tall man draws nearer, whether as an actual person or the embodiment of your higher self, you must understand that his arrival is not casual. He comes with a frequency that cannot exist in a space burdened by the weight of what no longer serves you. Just as you wouldn't invite a guest into a cluttered room, your inner and outer environments must be ready to receive what is sacred, elevated, and new. This part of your journey is not loud or dramatic, but it is incredibly important. The shift you are about to experience will stir everything that is misaligned. Old conversations may begin to feel hollow. Familiar routines may suddenly seem tedious or unfulfilling. You might even notice certain relationships becoming strained, not because something is wrong, but because you are no longer willing to dim your light to maintain false harmony. These small discomforts are not setbacks, they are signals. Your energy is changing. And everything that cannot meet you where you're headed will naturally begin to fall away. There's a quiet wisdom in understanding that growth requires space. Just like a fire cannot expand within a sealed container, your flame cannot rise in an environment that is crowded with emotional debris, outdated beliefs, or habits born from survival rather than choice. The process of clearing doesn't always require grand gestures. It begins with intention. With noticing what feels heavy, what feels expired, what drains you when it should nourish. You may start with your physical surroundings. Clean your home not only to make it look better, but to reset its energy. Open the windows. Burn incense or light a candle. Let the scent of sandalwood or cedarwood invite clarity. Use salt water to cleanse corners, mirrors, or doorways, places where old emotions may have gathered like dust. These rituals, though simple, carry deep resonance because they invite mindfulness. They bring your presence back to the moment, which is the only place true transformation can ever begin. But the deeper cleansing happens within. Sleep is your sacred recalibration, so honor it. Keep a rhythm that supports your body's cycles. Nourish yourself with foods that are vibrant and alive. Walk barefoot if you can. Reconnect with your body not as an obligation, but as a form of reverence. Dance. Move. Speak your truth aloud even if no one is around to hear it. Give yourself permission to take up space without explanation. This is the stage where detachment becomes an act of love. Letting go of what once felt necessary may bring grief, but that grief is sacred. It means you're no longer choosing out of fear. And in that clarity, a different kind of peace emerges. Not the peace that comes from avoiding conflict, but the peace that rises when you are no longer at war with your own becoming. Just as the forest sheds its leaves in fall to protect the root, you are now being asked to release in order to return. And the more consciously you participate in this clearing, the more swiftly life will begin to align with your intention. The tall man doesn't bring the light. He reveals it. And it can only shine fully when you have cleared the space to hold it. Remember, Leo, not everything is meant to be carried forever. When you release with awareness, you're not losing it the moment your hands become free to receive. What's waiting on the other side of this release isn't just a new beginning, it's a return to the version of you who no longer apologizes for being bright. When you begin clearing space internally and externally, you make room not only for new beginnings, but also for a deeper encounter with yourself. And that's what this next phase brings, Leo. It isn't just about stepping into more, it's about peeling away what was never truly you. You, of all signs, have always had a heart that longs to give, to uplift, to shine. But even the brightest light can be misunderstood, especially when it's cast into spaces where others are uncomfortable with illumination. This is where the tall man, be he symbolic or literal, returns once again. His role is not to love you in the way you once begged for. He doesn't arrive with softness just to soothe. Instead, he brings a mirror. He comes to show you the parts of yourself that you've denied to fit into roles, to stay safe, to remain accepted. And while this reflection might initially be difficult to face, it is also your liberation. Because what he reflects is not your failure, it's your truth. You may begin to notice how much you've been performing, smiling when your spirit was dimmed, agreeing when your heart said no, dimming your brilliance to avoid overshadowing others. This moment is your invitation to stop pretending. Not with aggression or defiance, but with grace. You no longer need to twist yourself to fit molds you never chose. The most healing thing you can do now is to allow your expression to be honest, even when it's not met with approval. In the wisdom teachings of many traditions, there's a simple but profound insight. When we stop clinging to the idea of being liked, we start moving toward truth. And truth, unlike approval, doesn't change based on who's watching. It simply is. This doesn't mean becoming harsh or cold. Quite the opposite means becoming sincere. It means letting your joy be real. Letting your no have weight. Letting your needs be heard, not negotiated. The Lover's card carries this theme as well. Though many associate it with romantic love, its deeper meaning is about alignment, making choices that honor the soul over the surface. It's not about choosing between two people, it's about choosing between the version of you that seeks acceptance at any cost, and the version of you that stands rooted in authenticity, even when it's uncomfortable. It's a crossroads moment, not because someone else is asking you to choose, but because your inner voice finally is. And then, there's the energy of number 50, a number of change, movement, the breaking of patterns. Its presence in this reading signals that you are not meant to repeat old dynamics, especially in how you relate, express, or receive love. You're meant to evolve. You're meant to shed the idea that love must be earned, or that belonging is conditional. The truth is, your presence alone is worthy. And once you know that in your bones, it becomes impossible to accept anything less. If you've been holding on to beliefs, stories, or roles that no longer serve you, this is the moment to release them. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have I shrunk myself to be accepted? And how much of what I carry is even mine? Let the color of fire, deep orange and red, be your visual reminder. Let it guide you back to that sacred flame within that never stopped burning. You are not here to be digestible. You are here to be real. To speak. To feel. To radiate without apology. And if someone cannot meet you there, let that be a redirection, not a rejection. Because the love that is coming next is not about fitting in, it's about finally, fully being seen. What happens when the light finally enters the room isn't always a dramatic shift but a soft, undeniable change in vibration. Leo, after all the inner clearing, the silent realizations, and the honest reflections, the moment you've been sensing now arrives. It doesn't burst in with noise or fanfare. Instead, it arrives like a knock at the door, gentle but unmistakable. The tall man, as we've called him throughout this journey, steps forward not as a rescuer, not as someone meant to carry you forward, but as a mirror with gravity. His presence doesn't add something to you, it activates something already within you. You may meet him as a person, someone who enters your life with timing so perfect it feels written. It could be a mentor, a guide, or even a stranger whose words seem to awaken you from sleep. It may also be an opportunity that feels destined, an invitation to lead, create, or claim a space you once felt unworthy of standing in. But perhaps, the most transformative version of this man is not external at all. Perhaps he is a part of you long buried beneath performance, self-doubt, and compromise, now rising from within with quiet insistence. The truth is, we spend much of our lives trying to fix what was never broken, trying to earn what we were always worthy of. And in doing so, we exile the most powerful version of ourselves. That version doesn't ask for permission to shine. He doesn't seek applause before he speaks. He simply is. When you allow that part of you to return without pretense, without fear, you begin to live from essence instead of expectation. You realize you don't need to prove your worth. You only need to inhabit it. This arrival, whether embodied by someone else or sensed from within, becomes the turning point. It shines a light on everything you've tolerated out of habit. Suddenly, false relationships fall away. Conversations that once seemed tolerable now feel hollow. Your body may begin rejecting situations that once drained you. You might notice your tolerance for superficiality has disappeared, not out of judgment, but because your soul no longer aligns with half-truths. In the same way a lamp reveals dust when switched on, this presence highlights what needs to be released. Not to punish, but to purify. Not to destroy, but to awaken. And here, we come to a deeper layer of awareness. What once felt like suffering or abandonment may now be understood as preparation. Every disappointment carved out space for clarity. Every loss made room for truth. And every moment you held yourself back has led to this one where you are finally ready to stand without shrinking. In teachings of presence, it's said that when one truly sees, they no longer seek to possess, they recognize that what's real was never separate. That's what this phase is offering you. A chance to see yourself not as a role or a story, but as presence. As awareness. As someone no longer seeking to fit in, but choosing to align. And you'll notice this isn't about ego. The tall man doesn't arrive with pride. He arrives with stillness. He doesn't convince. He doesn't perform. He simply stands. That is your cue. It's time to stop managing your light and start embodying it. Because your life, Leo, is no longer a rehearsal. The stage has been prepared. The lights are on. The script is yours to write. And the moment you step into it fully, everything that was once uncertain will start making perfect sense. When the mirror is clear and the dust has settled, there comes a moment quiet, steady, and unforgettable when you realize the person you've been waiting for isn't coming from somewhere else. He's not arriving from the outside to carry you forward. He's already here. And he has always been with you. The tall man, the presence that has loomed on the horizon of your awareness, is not a stranger after all. He is the part of you that refused to disappear, even when you silenced him. He is the version of you that never forgot who you truly are. This recognition doesn't come with grand revelation. It comes with an exhale. A soft, anchored knowing that nothing outside of you has ever held the key to your becoming. You are the door. And the tall many, our higher self, your inner authority, your unfiltered essence has simply been waiting for you to unlock it. Up until now, much of your life may have been spent negotiating between who you are and who the world wanted you to be. You've learned how to adjust your brightness to keep others comfortable. You've shaped your words carefully to preserve harmony. You've taken on roles that asked you to sacrifice your truth in exchange for belonging. But Leo, your belonging was never meant to come at the cost of your authenticity. And the moment you stop performing for approval, the truth begins to breathe again. The fire within you is not arrogant. It's not forceful. It's simply unapologetic. It does not demand attention, it emits it. And when you align with that fire, you no longer search for permission to exist. You stop asking questions like, is it okay to take up space, and instead begin affirming, I choose to fully inhabit who I am. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering someone true. There is a concept often spoken in quiet teachings, that the self is both the path and the destination. That awakening is not about adding more to who we are, but removing the layers of forgetting that obscured the light we've carried all along. You don't need to be more than you are, you just need to stop pretending you are less. One of the most powerful practices you can do now is to give voice to this inner return. Try writing a letter to yourself, not the self you've been, but the one rising now. Begin each sentence with, I no longer, and end with, I choose myself. Let it be raw. Let it be honest. You may write things like, I no longer shrink to keep others comfortable. I choose myself. Or, I no longer need to be liked to feel worthy. I choose myself. This is not a script, it's a declaration. A ritual of reclamation. You were never meant to flicker. You were meant to blaze. And the rooms you walk into are not just spaces you enter, they are stages you ignite. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy carries presence. That is your gift. That is your nature. And now, you are being asked to honor it. This chapter of your life is not about proving anything. It's about embodying everything you've already known deep down. You are not here to fit in. You are here to remember. And as you do, the world begins to rearrange itself around the truth of your return. You are the light you've been waiting for. You are the fire you once feared. And now, finally, you are ready to live like it. So here we are, dear Leo, at the end, and yet in so many ways, at the very beginning. You've walked with me through this journey not towards someone else, but back toward the most honest, unshakable parts of yourself. And if something in your chest feels softer now, or stronger, or more awake, trust that. Trust that it's not just a feeling. It's recognition. The tall man was never the goal. He was never the hero of this story. He was the doorway, the mirror, the catalyst. Whether he appears as someone who crosses your path, or whether he rises from within you in the form of a new voice, a new boundary, a deeper truth, you now know that he is simply one more reflection of you at your most aligned. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are choosing. You are not waiting to be seen. You are seeing yourself. And now comes the real invitation. To live it. To apply it. To integrate everything we've uncovered together. Because this video, this reading, this moment of pause in your day, it isn't the magic. You are. The clarity you're feeling right now? That's the starting point. That's the quiet spark you carry back into your life. So I ask you, gently but directly, what is one thing you can release today that no longer reflects who you are becoming? What is one truth you've kept silent that you're now ready to express? Who would you be if you stopped waiting for permission? You see, the path forward isn't about changing who you are. It's about standing so fully in who you are that the world has no choice but to adjust around you. That's what happens when someone stops shrinking. That's what happens when Leo roars, not to dominate, but to declare presence. Let this be your moment of declaration. You don't need the perfect words. You don't need anyone to agree. All you need is the courage to show up with your whole heart. And if you're ready, if something inside you has awakened, even just a little, I invite you to comment below with this simple truth: I am the one I've been waiting for. Let that be your vow to yourself. Let that be your message to the universe. Before we part, let me say this from the deepest part of my being: thank you. Thank you for opening your heart, your time, your energy to this message. Every like, every comment, every time you share or subscribe supports not just this channel, but the entire soul of eternal mindfulness. You are why this space exists. You are the fire that keeps it glowing. So if this spoke to you, if even one sentence lit a candle inside your spirit, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who may need the same spark you just received. Because the more we walk each other home, the more powerful the light becomes. And as you move through the rest of your day, remember, the stage is ready. The spotlight is warm. But the real audience isn't out there, it's the part of you that's been longing to be seen by you. Step into that space now. Say the thing. Choose the path. Rewrite the story. Because Leo, the world needs your voice. And you no longer need permission to be who you already are.